Thanks for coming on.
No, no problem at all. I actually run my own podcast every week as well, so I'm kind of used to doing them at this stage, but I enjoy them.
If you want to kind of introduce yourself, just kind of tell the people who you are and what you do.
Okay. Hey, folks. Thanks for having me on the podcast. First of all, Daniel, great to be here. My name is Alan Williams. I'm a health and wellness coach from Sligo in the west of Ireland. Um, I help people to transform their lives mostly through mindset, I suppose, nutrition, psychology, food, exercise, all of those brilliant variables that form the basis of a healthy life.
Nice. So, how'd you get into, what you do? What made you want to do it?
I suppose I was always into exercise and training from a fairly young age. I would have played a lot of football, a lot of team sports, but my grounding in health and wellness would probably be quite different to a lot of professionals, I would think, in that when I was younger, I was very introverted. I was very, very shy. So I discovered that when I really started to come out of my shell was when I discovered the gym. And I was in college at the time, so I'd been through school and come out the other side. I went off to university and I was maybe 17, 18. I started getting into the gym. I just discovered it. And from there, I just found my confidence in myself started coming up. So this was something that was the one area of my life where I really felt good about myself. And there was other areas of my life that I didn't feel so good and I didn't have that same level of confidence in myself. So I suppose when something like that happens and then people start coming up to you and they ask, well, what are you doing? Or you're looking good, or they ask for help with training or with nutrition, again, you start to realize, well, I must be quite good at this because people are asking me for help and they're giving me compliments on it. And again, that just feeds into your own self esteem. And for me, then I found that I was able to take that into other aspects of my life. Whereas before, I was so shy, I was so introverted in groups of people, I would be nearly sitting there not speaking. And now I was finding because I had a little bit more confidence in myself, not just in the way I look, but in the fact that people were looking to me for advice, I was able to go out into the real world and I was able to have conversations with people. And that just changed my life completely. So when people talk about health and wellness and about fitness, I think sometimes there's a little bit of a perception that it's all about how you look. But for me, there's much, much more to it than that. And I think that's why I became so passionate about it because I think it literally gave me a new life from where I was before.
That's pretty cool. I kind of relate to that kind of introverted, quiet kind of personality. I'm still that way as far as like, when I'm by myself, I'm just kind of a resolved, calm person. But whenever I started going really to the gym and working out pretty seriously around freshman year of college as well, and I kind of had the same experience of having a little bit more confidence and stuff like that. People start coming up to me for advice the same way, saying, how do you do this? What do you kind of recommend for this and this? So yeah, really kind of get where you're coming from with that. So did that kind of make you want to kind of give that to other people? The gift of that confidence to other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think once you experience the benefits of a healthy life, so confidence is one aspect, but there's also things like your energy levels and the way you view yourself and the way you view the world. And I was finding I was much more positive in what I was doing. And I always find, even with the likes of fitness, I get a lot more clarity, even from running my own business. When I'm training, sometimes I get some great ideas, and it's just because the mind is clearer, because you feel good, and even mentally, you're in a much, much better place. So it's all these massive benefits that I was seeing. I was thinking, I have to share this with other people. I have to help them bring this out in themselves. So for me, the reason I do what I do is always to help clients. It's always to help other people. It's to bring some form of benefit to them because I know how powerful it is to live that life. And I would love other people to see that because I think sometimes it gets a little bit underestimated. They don't realize sometimes that you can change the way your mood is. You can change the way you think about things. You can actually change your energy levels. You've got the power to do all that. And I think sometimes people don't realize that that's even within their own control.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Some people just see fitness as kind of like a physical change, as in, I'm going to be skinnier, I'm going to be, more muscular, whatever. They don't really understand that with that comes more of, more mental changes, more kind of attitude changes. And that's kind of one of the one thing that I wish people kind of understood more. You know, it's not that I don't think they know it. I just don't think they think about it for themselves. I think they see, hey man, that person's looking, looking good, and when you look good, you feel good. But that I don't think it registers with a lot of people that could be them as well.
Yeah, maybe they don't understand the power of it. They kind of think, oh yeah, well he says it's this, so it probably is, but not to the extent that he says. And then when they actually live that life and they see the difference that it makes to them, then they actually see the difference. But I think it's really by actually living it. You have to put it into practice and you have to do it for long enough, which is also a key thing. Because again, we see a lot of people, we live in a society now where everybody wants everything immediately and it's instant gratification. And fitness doesn't work like that and it never will. You have to put in the time, you have to put in the yards, and you have to stick with it long enough to give it a chance to work that you see change. It's not about doing one good week in January when New Year's resolutions hit. It has to be the other 11 months of the year too. And if you want to get into a space where you're feeling better about yourself and you're starting to see results, be that mentally, be that physically, you're going to have to put in a solid 4, 5, 6 weeks before you see any changes. And people don't really want to do that because they just want it now and it has to be immediate. But when we change that over, after those few weeks, you start to see small changes. It could be 6 months before you start seeing noticeable changes. But within the space of 12 months, massive difference. But you have to be consistent, you have to be patient, and you have to give it time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the consistency of, putting in the work. And I think some of the work that people don't often think about putting in is the mental work and the rest. Everybody that you see that does it, all you really see from the Instagrams and the videos is the workouts and the meal prep and all this. But I think a big part of kind of follow through of that is being okay with taking a rest day, scheduled rest days, and even a rest day if you just you're feeling a little low or something. But being consistent in just the whole new lifestyle and not just consistently working out, because I think a lot of people see fitness as just this workout thing, and when you're not moving, you're not progressing. And I think that's kind of one big downfall of, even though I think it does help seeing a lot of people, exercising and doing all this stuff on Instagram and Facebook, social media in general. I think it can kind of send the wrong message of, man, these people never take a break.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And to me, health and wellness is about more than just fitness and workouts. It's about minding your body and it's the holistic approach. So it's minding your body, it's minding your mind, it's managing your stress levels, managing your energy levels, it's time management, it's sleeping patterns. It's all of these different components that you bring together. And you've kind of touched on something there for me because a phrase I often use is changing your body is not about your body, it's about your mind. So really what you need to look at is how do I manage my mind? And we're talking then about things like goal setting. We're talking about resilience. We're talking about positivity. We're talking about gratitude. We're talking about turning up every day doing the work. So it's your approach to it. And it's all about how you view it. It's about how you see things in your mind. Because I think everybody knows the basics. I mean, they would know enough about food and about training to get started. But I don't think that's the problem. I think it's more changing the mind. And it's even one of the things we've touched on there already is going towards a long-term approach. That's one small mindset shift that everybody needs to make if you're serious about creating long-term change. It can't be just about, I want to lose this amount of weight and I want it gone now. It can't be that. It has to be, I'm changing for life and I'm going to look at behavioral change and changing habits and I'm going to do that for the long term. So it's all those little things, bringing them together.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So you're talking about you started your business. When did you start that? When did you kind of get that rolling?
I've been 7 years in business, just a couple of weeks gone by. Actually, I was 7 years. So I've been in the I've been in the fitness industry for a long time. I started working in the fitness industry when I was 19, I think. So yeah, I'm a long time in it now. And then in 2013, set up my own business. We had a recession at the time. I think probably global recession. It was particularly bad here in Ireland, so it wasn't the best time to set up a business. But you know what? It was the making of me. It was really, really good for me because when you speak about resilience, you become resilient when you don't have a choice. You know, when it's one of those where it's sink or swim and there was no money in the economy and people didn't, everybody told me it wasn't going to work. And like I went out into the world and I had no support really. I had no resources. I had no cash in the bank. I had no contacts. I had no clients. But I just had a huge level of determination and I was just so positive about what I was doing and just that conviction that I was going to make it work. And again, getting back to your mindset, I always thought, well, I'll do whatever it takes. I don't care how hard this is going to be. I'm going to do the work. And I think when you kind of go out there with that attitude, you give yourself a chance.
Yeah, definitely. It gives you a fighting chance. Where do you kind of get that motivation to do whatever it takes? Do you have some kind of like either in the fitness and or health and wellness world or in the entrepreneurial world? Do you have kind of a role model or role models you look up to?
Yeah, I think it's important that you're, I suppose, listening to people who inspire you. On a daily basis, I would be listening to audiobooks, I would be listening to podcasts, or read as many books as I can. And you've mentioned the word motivation there. Motivation is a funny thing because motivation comes and goes, and it's not going to be there all the time. So I always say to people, you can't rely on motivation. What you have to do is make it a habit. You're turning up day in, day out. However, I do think it's like I always say, it's like having a shower. A shower is not going to keep you clean forever, but it's a good idea to do it every day. And I think
Exactly.
motivation is the same. I think you should bathe in motivation every day. So I would always, every day, I'll get on podcasts, listen to audiobooks. And I love, I suppose, there's people here in Ireland I like Pat Divley. You might have heard of him or you might not. Pat Divley is really good in fitness sphere. He does a lot of personal development, mindset work. And then there's guys you guys have in the US as well. Obviously, Tony Robbins will be I suppose, an inspiration for most of us. I like his stuff. Gary V, I love in a business context. I love Gary V. Yeah, there's a few. James Smith as well, who's in England. So there's a lot of global ones because I always think if you want to be the best, you have to learn from the best. So I would kind of look at who are the ones that really inspire me at the top of the industry. And I kind of focus in on a handful. So there might be 4 or 5 people. Tim Ferriss is another one I like. So 4 or 5 people, I consume a lot of their content. And that's it. Because I think sometimes you can take on too many. I think if you're looking at 70, 80 different people and you're getting conflicting messages, you end up confused. And I think sometimes it's better just find the people that inspire you and stick with them.
Yeah, I listen to a few of those as well. Gary V, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins. I've read some of their books. They've really helped me out with just kind
Yeah.
of getting in the right mindset. I know especially Gary V gives you just a lot of like tips on doing day to day things differently. But just I think that's a big thing too is just changing your mindset of I can't to I can and
Yeah.
whether
It's everything.
yeah, whether you can now doesn't really matter. It's just about, building that and just just slow changes. Like you said, it's the slow changes. So I
It
think
is, and it's making the most of what you have now. Like, I mean, I think sometimes you just have to make a start with what you've got, and you'll pick up better tools along the way. But it's always that question: what can I do, rather than what can't I do? I think
absolutely.
if you do that, you'll go a long way.
Yeah, because what you can't do today doesn't really have an effect on what you can do, and it propels you to do what you can't do. And
Yeah, it is, and it's probably self-limiting beliefs there to a point as well, where you're telling yourself, "I can't do this," because I do believe the messages you send the brain are what it's going to respond to. So if you constantly tell yourself, "I can't do something," you're never going to do it. You
yeah,
might say, "Okay, I can't do it now, but someday I will." So I'm going to start working towards that process. So in the meantime, what do I have to do to move me towards that goal?
yeah, absolutely. So we kind of touched on the struggle of long term versus short term wants, and that's definitely one of the if not the biggest struggle for people. What do you think another really big struggle for people is when it just comes to health and wellness in general?
Oh, how long is a piece of string? There's a lot. I guess one of the big ones I think is lack of patience. I think people just don't have that patience to actually take their time, be consistent, do it day in day out. It's like they start one program and then they see their friend over here doing something else. Go, oh, I'm going to try what she's doing. And then they do that for a week, 2 weeks, and then they see a celebrity over here endorsing some product, and they go, "Oh, I'm going to try that." So they're doing everything for 2 weeks. But I will say what really works long term is just a healthy lifestyle. It's eating good, healthy, nutritious foods. It's doing exercise. It's hard work. That's what works. And sometimes people don't want to hear that. But I guarantee if you are consistently doing the work for 6 months without program hopping and jumping between one, two, three, you'll make huge amounts of progress. But I don't think people like to hear that because again, I've touched on it earlier, it's kind of the instant gratification thing. They want results now. They want it immediately. They don't want it 6 months later. But the time is going to pass anyway. So why not do the work and be at your goal in 6 months as opposed to just kind of looking to get it done immediately?
Whenever I do anything, even if it's just for myself, the first thing I do is just sit down and say, what is my actual goal? Like, when do I want it done? What specifically? I think it comes down to like a SMART goal, specific, measurable,
Yeah,
attainable, realistic, timely. So, just figuring all that out before you jump into something, it can really make you actually appreciate it even more than you thought you could, because you're actually
absolutely
taking
right.
time to put your mind into, hey, I know I want this, but why do I want this, and how am I going to get this? I just think it makes it a little bit more tangible when you write something down like that or whatever, to where you can physically see it. It's like putting your why statement down. It's just kind of a little bit more power.
Absolutely right. And I think studies actually have shown if you've got written goals, you're as much as 42% more likely to achieve that goal as opposed to just having it in your head and not getting it out there. But I think mindset in general, like when we look at the struggle that people have, I think it's a lot of it's up there. I think it's like the day that they don't have a good day or they step on a weighing scale and it's gone up, they get disheartened and they throw everything out and they just, oh, forget about it, it's not working. Whereas if you're working on your mindset, you're kind of going, okay, it's not what I want today, but I've made a lot of progress up to this point. So I'm still doing well. I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep making progress. I'm going to be resilient and I'm just going to accept that the bad days are just part of the process and everybody has them and it's just part of life. It's not something to get discouraged about. But people don't take the time to do that. They just, again, they view, I suppose, weigh-ins in isolation. And when it's, there's maybe a party on Saturday night and they go and enjoy themselves and they have food and they have drink. And then on Monday, the scale's gone up 3 pounds and they panic. They go, oh, that wasn't meant to happen. And it's like, okay, but it's no big deal. If you actually just get right back on track, it will be fine. Because there's 52 weeks in the year. A couple of bad weekends here and there are not going to make any major difference. But it's a mindset shift. It's again taken in the bigger picture in the long term.
Yeah, the way I kind of look at it and kind of try to tell people is, you didn't get this way in a weekend. You're not going to get back in a weekend. So,
Absolutely.
enjoy yourself, but realize that, this isn't a problem. It's part of life.
You got to have balance in your life. To me, a healthy lifestyle is all about balance. Like, I don't think it's healthy to go all the other way either, where you're only eating broccoli and chicken and you're training every day and you never have any chocolate. To me, that's not healthy either. I think there needs to be a bit of a middle ground.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a lot of one way or the other instead of that balance these
Yeah,
days. But I think we're
it
kind of making
is.
some progress.
Yeah, I think so.
Where do you see the the health and wellness industry, including, fitness and diet and all that stuff that is related to it? Where do you see that kind of felling its clients?
Oh, good question. Um, I think it's coming back for me. It's coming back to what we've mentioned earlier with regard to Instagram and probably Facebook, even where there's a lot of. I think there's a lot of false perceptions out there, and I think it's people trying to give the impression that there's something they're not. And I'm talking about fitness professionals here, to be honest. So it's like the lads with their shirts off on Instagram, it's the girls with their asses out, and it's filters, it's perfect lighting, it's tan, it's pictures when they've just come off stage. They don't look like that all year round, but people don't speak about that. It's like, look how perfect I am. And I think ultimately what happens then is you get the average person off the street looking at that and they go, that's the standard. That's where I should be. That's what I should look like. How come I don't look like that? And I think it can become disheartening for people because really what you're seeing is pictures of people. Those people don't even look like that. Never mind you trying to look like them. So I think maybe we need a bit more honesty in the industry as well. And we need people to say, well, this is me. This is actually what I genuinely am looking like. I'm not in that amazing shape. I got a perfect picture there, but my other pictures are not all like that. So it's maybe just bringing it back to basics a little bit more because the people I worry about probably is our younger people. I look at, like, I work in schools, sometimes I speak in schools, and I would see, I was going to say probably teenage girls, but to be honest, it's lads now too. It's boys as well. They're so impressionable and they see this on Instagram and they think, why don't I look like that? That's what everybody should look like. And it's a dangerous thing, I think, in a way, because, I mean, you see Instagram and you see people with six packs, you're looking at less than 1% of the population, I would think. So I think it's important to get that message across that it's perfectly normal to have a bit of body fat around the stomach area or whatever, like, you know. So especially for our younger people, I think it's very, very important to get that message out to them that it's normal for that to be the case, you know. So don't worry too much about what you see online sometimes.
Yeah, we're definitely setting some unrealistic expectations up for, a lot of people. And uh, women have kind of said that for years about, models on magazines and this and that and the other. But I think it's becoming more too, like you said, with the male population as well. So yeah, just getting back to what it really is to be human. And I don't think it's perfection. And, you know, sure, you look great whenever you're oiled up and you just did your pump backstage, but that's not how it is every day. And it's not important that it is that. I think that's another thing to think about is we're more than just physical creatures. Like, you could be the biggest, strongest, most cut person or whatever, but that doesn't make you a good person. That doesn't make you, you know, worth anything. I think it's from the work you put in that building that physique can build these morals and these the mindset that makes you a better person. But I don't think just the physical nature of it necessarily makes you worthy.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, a dickhead with abs is still a dickhead, you
Exactly.
know. So yeah, and I think it's one of those where you've mentioned you kind of develop life skills along the way that are transferable to other areas of your life. Because I don't want to come across here that I'm putting down people who are in great shape. I'm not, because I think those people have shown incredible levels of discipline, for one thing, to get into the condition that they are in, you know, and they've shown resilience, and they've turned up day after day after day, and they've done the work. So they've got a really good work rate. So there's loads of positive elements that are in that too. And that then is obviously transferred to your work life, your career, whatever. So even building relationships, it's all kind of interlinked, and it's similar mindsets, similar strategies. So I think there are incredibly positive sides to it as well. But yeah, it's just that you're understanding that just because you look brilliant doesn't mean that you're necessarily better than everybody else or whatever. It's just that you're kind of keeping that rounded aspect to your life as well, and trying to be a good person. It's not all about how you look. It probably is, again, coming back to following the people that inspire you, as opposed to just taking on shitloads of information for the sake of it.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's a lot of information out there, but some of it can be rather toxic too, to just
Yeah.
constantly be seeing. Because I mean, as much as we get on our phones and open it and scroll, we want to be putting that good information into our heads, not the that bad stuff.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. It's just, I suppose, filter what makes you feel good and what doesn't.
yeah. So you talked about mindset and talked about the importance of like a long term versus a short term. What's kind of one piece of advice you find yourself giving, not just your clients, but maybe your family and your friends the most about, health and wellness? Just something that's simple, but maybe just kind of like a light bulb kind of moment.
Yeah, there's quite a few, I suppose. I would definitely say one would be probably the importance of always having perspective. I think perspective is incredibly important. And I actually had a conversation with a client just yesterday. So she's picked up an injury. She's been doing phenomenally well. She's making a lot of progress over the last probably 10, 12 weeks. Now she's got injured, and it was suddenly, I got an email from her, and she was just feeling really down, and she was, oh, and yesterday then I just sat down and I was having chocolate and I was eating loads. So it was kind of a little bit of self-pity was creeping in. And I just said to her, look, yeah, I get that it's really, really frustrating being injured. I mean, anybody that trains knows that. And what I said to her was, we've all experienced it. Everybody that trains is going to experience it at some point. It's frustrating, it's not nice. But on the bigger scale of things, it's a 2 out of 10 problem. And I think people in their heads, they put it to an 8 or a 9. But realistically, we've got this COVID situation in the world at the minute. We've got thousands of people dying. We've got families that have been affected by that. Those are people with real problems. Whereas an injury, yes, it's frustrating. And I don't want to belittle it, because it does. In that moment, it feels horrible. But over the bigger scheme, it's going to keep you out of action for a couple of weeks, but then you're going to pick up and you're going to make progress again. So it's keeping that sense of perspective and keeping things in context and realizing my problem is a 2, it's not a 9, you know. So perspective, I think, is crucially important.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's something that a lot of the motivational and inspirational and people on Instagram, such as Gary Vee, he talks about that a lot. Just perspective is everything. And when you kind of appreciate your opportunities and take into perspective the negatives that do happen in your life, it just completely changes your mindset into being more, I guess, forgiving of yourself, and of the things that happen in your own life. So you're not as, like you said, 8 or 9 out of 10 whenever something that maybe as a 2 happens. I think that's a
Yeah,
big part of it.
I, I think it is. And the other thing that I think is really important to mention as well is resilience comes from that struggle. And if you never have a problem, I actually pity the person that never has a problem, because when life gets tough, they're going to experience really difficult times. Whereas I think if you sometimes do the hard thing, life becomes easier. But if you always take the easy option, life is going to be hard. So when you have a setback in your life, it's that you learn from it, and it's that you come out the other side stronger from it. And I think that's why sometimes it's a gift.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And before, COVID happened, um, and I realize people do have very challenging lives, and not that we're living in this utopia now, but compared to the previous thousands of years, I think we're living in a pretty well off time to live.
Yeah.
But before COVID, I always kind of thought, you know, th- these things that previous generations had that tested them and built them stronger. What's ours going to be? We had just the big one I can think of is like World War II. My grandpa's generation. He had to go and fight to basically save the world. If they didn't do that, then the world would not be what it is today. Like, it's just a completely that kind of mission, that kind of goal and struggle. I think that builds you into something that is just on another level. And I was not that COVID is necessarily our thing, but I just struggled to find something for our generation that was something that could help us, have that resiliency.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes we take for granted what we have, and I think gratitude is so, so important. And even for somebody like myself building a business, I mean, I think we're absolutely blessed. I think we're so, so fortunate now to have the likes of social media. And like, I actually don't even own a premises. I run everything online. So I have no overheads at all. And I'm running a successful business, love what I do. Whereas in previous generations, you had to take out a bricks and mortar building. You had to hope that people came in and that you gave them a good service and that word of mouth might get round. And maybe you had to pay for newspaper advertising. Whereas now you've got the whole world open up at your fingertips. And like,
Absolutely.
yes, it's just keeping that perspective again and being grateful for what you have. I think gratitude is the cornerstone of everything.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, you know, in 2020 we're sitting here and we're talking and we're on different continents, and we could basically help each other out from thousands of miles away. In previous
Yeah.
generations that was a fairy tale at best. So just the
Yeah,
opportunity.
we live in a great time, Daniel, and I think, the COVID situation, we can approach this. It's terrible. It's the worst thing ever. Or we can say, do you know what? It is horrible. It is what it is, but it's also going to pass. At the moment, we don't know when that is, but it is going to end at some stage. So it's again just controlling yourself, controlling the controllables, staying within your own environment, your own ecosystem. What's the best I can do with what I've got now? And filtering out the rest, because I think we can take too much on and we can just totally overwhelm ourselves, taking on news every day, taking on the Facebook feed every day where it's just constant updates. And yourself with social media, negativity is what sells and gets shared. So there's a lot of scaremongering on there. You're never going to see a good story about COVID, to put it that way. So I think sometimes it's about just finding one or two good, reliable sources, getting your information from that, filter out the rest, and just control what you can control.
Yeah, that's it, man. Just doing what you can do to kind of tunnel, not really in a bad way, but in a good way, tunnel vision your own news and tunnel vision your own information that's coming in. Just because
Yeah, well,
we live in a
that's
world where
what
that's possible.
absolutely right, and that's what builds mindset, be it positive or negative, is what you're feeding it. So if it's constant negative messages coming in, that's what you're going to respond to. If it's
Yep,
positive messages coming in, positive mindset.
absolutely. Um, we talked a little bit about, COVID just now, and the way I kind of look at it is it's building a world where we're learning how to do things differently. And how do you see, maybe not COVID or, you know, the effects of COVID, but how do you see the next 5 or 10 years going in the health and wellness industry? How do you see it evolving? And, maybe that's due to COVID, maybe it's something else.
It's so interesting because I think the health and wellness sphere has evolved so much even over the last few years before COVID hit. I think it's starting to move in a slightly different direction. And in terms of not so much just workouts, it's now very much evolved into mental health, and it's evolved into mindfulness and meditation. And I think you guys maybe were a little bit ahead of us with that, but I think here in Europe now we're starting to catch up, and I think people are becoming very, very aware of the need to do it because we've got such busy lives now. It's like people are just overworked and they're stressed to the eyeballs, and they're starting to become a lot more aware now that they need to take time out for themselves. And that might not always be hammering out a workout. It might be sitting down to meditate in the morning, or it might be just going to the beach for a walk, or it might be whatever it is that brings the intensity down. So I think that's one really good thing that has been happening over the last number of years. I think COVID has changed the landscape slightly again, in that things have started to shift towards online over the last number of months, and you've seen that we all ended up doing online workouts and hit sessions and all that. And for me, that was really good, to be honest, because I've got an online business anyway. I've been doing it for the last 4 years, so I was already kind of set up in that niche anyway. But I think going forward, what it has done is it's helped people to realize that the online business or the online coaching is a very viable option because it works for them. They've seen that it worked, whereas before I think maybe they were afraid to do it. It's that I have to go to my trainer and I have to see my PT and I have to have him standing over me. And maybe they're afraid to try something else because they don't want to pay the money in case it doesn't work. Now they've done it. They've seen this is actually good. This gives me options, especially people that are stuck at home. We'll say parents that can't get out to the gym or they don't have much time on their hands, that they can see, well, I can jump on an online workout and I can do it in 20 minutes and I don't have to go anywhere. So I think that is probably going to be here to stay for a lot of people. But then there's always going to be the people that just, they want to go to the gym and they love the social scene as well, and they love being with a trainer and loving with other people. So I don't think there's any negative side to it. I think what it has done is maybe opened up more options to people. You have to be adaptable. I think that's the thing. It's taught us to be adaptable. But even I think in terms of training in general, each individual is so different that what one person loves, somebody else doesn't like, and that's okay. And I think it's finding what works best for you. And even in the gym, like you've mentioned there, you love getting and lifting weights and mixing with people. I love lifting weights too, but I love having my headphones on and being in my own little world. So it's just each their own, and I think there's no right and wrong. It's just you try things, and when you try 10 different things, you'll find what works for you.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's kind of a something to, I think, pass on to the people listening is, even if you have something you do like, don't just necessarily stick to that. Try some new things, because you might like what you're doing, but you might love what's really out there. And I think just giving multiple things a shot is really important.
Yeah, you might surprise yourself. I actually found as well when lockdown hit, and because most of my training would be lifting weights as well, I love that. But when lockdown hit, I started doing HIIT work. At the start, I thought, oh, I'm not going to enjoy this. The HIIT stuff, I'll have to do it, but I'm not going to enjoy it. And then when you do a few weeks and you find the fitness levels coming up, just got into it more and more. I thought, this is okay, Actually, and now they're probably going to be there to stay a little bit more. Maybe not every day, but they'll be there. There'll probably be 1 or 2 a week staying, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of had the same experience when I decided I wanted to run a marathon. I didn't do it because I love running. I just did it because I wanted to have that experience. But, I got I actually, ran mostly on a treadmill, which is what you don't want to probably recommend for someone doing that. But when I got into the gym and I started running, it was almost like a mind. I don't want to say it was like mindless, because in some ways it was. It was like my stress and all that was like out the window, but my mind was focused on different things. It was just a chance for me to let my body take over my running, and my mind, I could think about just completely different new things that even when I'm lifting weights, I can't really do that because I'm still focused on, man, this is gonna be a hard lift. Like I got to focus on this lift. When I was running, I could be like, hey man, I can think about anything now. It was kind of a
Yeah,
fun new thing.
I agree with that. And I think it's funny because I often say to people, my best business ideas have come when I'm 3 or 4 miles into a run. And it's actually because I think there's no distractions and the head is clear and you're just out there, endorphins are flowing and you feel good. And then everything starts to click into gear.
So I kind of want to talk about the cool things you have going on in your life right now.
There's a lot going on at the moment. It's really busy at the moment. I've just finished writing my second book. So the book is called Weight Loss Simplified. I've spent the last 18 months working on that. So it's with the editor at the minute, and I was so glad just to hand it over, give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing the photo shoot for the covers on Monday. So hoping to have the book out next month, end of October, 29th of October, I think is the release date for the book. So Weight Loss Simplified. Yeah, it's the second book. The first one was very much a mindset book, so it was all mindset. It was called Unlocking My Mind. So yeah, I've done that. New online course launched, Elevate, it's sold out. It's going really well. So there's a lot of stuff on the horizon, but I love to keep busy and I love to challenge myself, and I think it's when I perform best.
Yeah. So what made you want to get into writing? Are you kind of a natural writer? Does it something you have to sit down and kind of push yourself to do? What is it kind of like for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I suppose I decided I was first going to write a book because I was pushing out a lot of social media content, and the more I was doing it, I was going, I really should bring all this stuff together and give people some sort of a resource that they can tap into whenever they need it. And for me, then, from a career perspective, I suppose you're making yourself an authority really when you bring out a book. So it does bring the profile up a little bit as well. I wouldn't say you make a fortune on a book money wise, but it's the spin off from it. It does bring in a lot of extra business, a lot of extra work. I do a lot of corporate speaking as well. So when you're seen to be releasing books, it does help. Um, in terms of the process itself, I would definitely say it's been therapeutic for me. There's been days where it's just so nice to get everything out of your head and onto paper, and you don't realize how much you actually know about a topic until you see it all typed in front of you, and you're going, "How did I accumulate all that knowledge?" So
Yeah.
it can be funny, yeah. But then there's other days where you've kind of asked me there, is it a case of kind of just pushing through it or whatever? There's some days where I go, I'm not going to write today because I'm not feeling it. And I think the worst thing you can do is try and force it, because that comes through to the reader. The quality of the writing drops. And I can see it myself straight off when I read back on it. I go, I wasn't really in the mood for it that day. So now I've learned the days that there's no inspiration, just let it be and come back to it then on the days that the energy levels are up and you're feeling better again.
Kind of one last thing, wrap it up. What are your goals for the remainder of 2020 and then kind of on into the future a little bit? What do you want to do?
My goals, I suppose my big goal for this year was to get the new book out, which is on the way. It's at the end of October that's coming out. Beyond that, it's to, I suppose, help as many people as I can just to see the benefits of what they're doing and the benefits that living a healthier life can bring them. So I suppose my courses are sold out at the moment. So with those people, it's just to make sure that when Christmas comes, they've made massive amounts of progress compared to where they were, that they can look back at December 2020 and they can go, now I'm much further on than I was this time last year. And I think that's the ultimate judge for anybody, that you can look back and say, well, have I made progress, or am I in a better place now than I was previously? So I suppose most of my goals are probably about helping other people achieve their goals, if that makes sense. In terms of my career and my own development and my business, there are massive things I want to do, and I always try to set the bar fairly high. It's speaking really is where the big goals are for me now. I've dipped my toes in the water, I've gained some experience, I'm starting to gain a bit of a reputation. I want to speak at the biggest health and wellness events in Europe, and I make no bones about saying that that's what I want to do. So I do believe I'm going to get there, and it's just one step at a time, one gig at a time, breaking that goal right down again, making this gig a little bit better than the last one was. That's what will take you to where you want to go, as with any goal, as with a weight loss goal, as with a fitness goal, breaking it down.
That's it, man. Just speak it into existence and then put in the work. It was great talking to you, and appreciate you coming on. You can, if you want, you can tell the people where they can find you and, all that stuff.
Yeah, social media is probably where you'll get me. Facebook, Alan Williams Coaching. Instagram, Alan Williams Coaching. And the website is alanwilliamscoaching.com. So any of
Keep
those
it
places, keep it simple, yeah.
Where can we find your current book as well as the one coming out in the future?
The current book is on my website, alanwilliamscoaching.com. It's in all bookstores here in Ireland, bookstores, but you probably won't get it in the US. So your best bet for online is just through my website, alanwilliamscoaching.com.
Awesome. Well, it's been fun. It's been definitely some education for me, some information coming in. Hopefully everybody got something out of this episode. I think there was something for pretty much everybody. So I really appreciate you coming on, and definitely have to keep in touch.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Cheers for having me.
Yep. Thank you.